Hello everybody, welcome to the 44 on 1 podcast. I'm Tempest, the purple head extravaganza of GVizzle, and today we have our second ever guest, Beth. She usually talks about long COVID on her channel on TikTok, and today we thought we'd give her a break from that and discuss all things Star Trek. So enjoy.
And also, all three of us are Star Trek fans to some extent, so it just had to happen, I think.
Very excited.
I've been doing so much homework. I haven't watched the show in a very long time, so I've been watching it on Netflix at 1.5 times speed, so I can get caught up on the different storylines, so I know what's actually happening on the show. I've only made it to like halfway through season 2, so I will have to trust my failing memory.
And this is which Star Trek are we
Next
talking
Generation. Next Generation was the only one I really got into.
about? Okay.
Yes, what was your favorite?
Ooh. I've gone back and forth on this one, and it sounds controversial, but I am obsessed with Discovery. I love them all, but I find it's the one series that came after the first one that is so true to the first two, and that every episode is a self-contained episode, but it's still driving a plot forward. It's about the characters as much as it is about the technology or the science. And there's so many strong women in it. Even I know there's strong women in the other ones too, but it gives me goosebumps. I love it so much.
Okay, I'm gonna have to try it now.
You know,
so good.
You don't see Discovery?
I haven't watched any of them.
Oh.
I'm a reluctant Star Trek fan. My brother made my parents take us to see Wrath of Khan in the theater when it came out, and I was 8. And when that came out of I was like, that science fiction's not for me, and I never watched it again. I couldn't do it. And then my brother, I had the only other than our living room, I had the only other TV in our house. So my brother, who's 6 years older than I am, would commandeer my television every time Next Generation was on, and I would be stuck there watching it, or I had to go talk to my parents. And I was 14. I don't want to talk to my parents. So I started watching it, and I was like, all right, this is engaging. I got into it. And then I watched all the original movies, all the current movies, but I didn't get into any other show.
Discovery, one of the things I find funny with the criticisms of it, it's like it's the same as happens with the New Dune, which is, it's woke. They've woked it. It's like, Star Trek's always been woke.
And that's what got us to our guest today, is that video about it could not have been more woke.
Yeah.
It's absurd. It's absolutely absurd. And in Discovery, while yes, there are a myriad of characters that represent the world that we live in today, by no means is there like a forcing of any kind of ideology. It's just people trying to live in a world as they are and as they would like to be represented. And I think that's the best part of it. And if you look at it and you say, oh, that's forcing ideology on me, then you're not comfortable in the world that we live in today, and you're hating your neighbors. And that's a much bigger problem than you're struggling with Star Trek.
Absolutely. I was looking up facts on the show, and like I know that the very first interracial kiss on television was between Captain Kirk and Uhura, but they had apparently written the scene to have the kiss and not have the kiss. And every time they tried to shoot it without the kiss, they would intentionally fuck it up so that they had to air it with a kiss. And that's just perfection.
Yeah, that's brilliant.
Yeah.
It's awesome.
Yeah, one of the things about Star Trek, I think, is kind of teaching people how to have awkward conversations, difficult conversations, think about difficult things. And one of the things I liked in Discovery was when they had the first transhuman character. Because we've had trans aliens before, but never a transhuman. And they actually showed people how to have the conversation, who might never have met a trans person before. And then that's what Star Trek is about, is showing people other ways of life that you wouldn't know about. Hence having an interracial kiss on TV in the 60s, which no one had seen, and it was shocking.
Well, Lucy and Ricky still in separate beds.
Yeah.
Sorry.
It's true. In the original series, they did an episode on addressing racism, and the way they illustrated the absurdity of hating a person for the color of their skin is they had one alien whose half their face was painted white and the other half was black, and the other one, half their face was black and half their face was white, and these aliens were at war. And you were sitting back and going, the absurdity of this. They're the same thing. They just look a little different and they hate each other. And it was such a clever way for, the rest of society to look at ourselves and say, why are we doing the exact same thing?
Exactly.
Have you ever heard of the comedian Emo Phillips?
Yes.
So he has this joke, and it's a long joke, and it's about two religious people who meet, and they start comparing their religion, and they're like, oh, I'm a Presbyterian. Oh, so am I. And it may not have been that. I can't remember exactly. And they whittle it down to like a very specific sect of Presbyterianism. And then when they get to the end, it's like, we need to go to war because we are so different in our ideology. Meanwhile, everything else is the same. It is one of the best jokes I think he's ever done.
Yeah, I like him a lot.
What sort of era was he talking in? Because I've never heard of him.
I think he had his biggest moment probably in the 80s and 90s, but he's still doing it. Robert Plant, that's his favorite comedian. And it's good enough for Led Zeppelin.
Yeah.
He has a very specific style of delivery, and his jokes are very clever. They're very smart. And it's just like this one, it takes a while to get to the end, but when it does, it's like, yes, it's just as Beth was saying, it's the absurdity of just one tiny little thing that makes you hate somebody.
And so I know you're a fan of Colbert, right? So I've done a variation of the Colbert Questionnaire for you two. And yeah, we'll see how it goes. It kind of keeps the essence of the Colbert Questionnaire, so we'll see what sort of answers we get out of the two of you from one avid Star Trek fan like myself and one reluctant, pretending to be a Star Trek fan in GVizzle.
Wow.
I think I'm in the middle.
Yeah.
I'm just doing it to hang out with the cool kids.
Yeah.
Oh,
So what is the best replicator option?
like for a food?
Or just anything you can get out of the replicator, what would be your go-to pick? It's very wide-ranging.
I would be nervous, but it would be lobster rolls.
Ah,
Can eat them any time of day. Always lovely.
I've never had one, ever.
Me either. McDonald's had them
Why
for a
the
while,
first
and I
time?
got scared.
Sorry?
But do you eat lobster? You've just never had a lobster roll?
Yeah, I just never had a lobster roll. I don't even know what it is.
So I'm from the East Coast, so we grew up on them. So you just take all the meat out of the lobster and you kind of toss it in a little bit of mayonnaise, maybe some celery, and you put it in like the most buttery bun you've ever had in your life. And you're basically eating all the lobster. So you don't have to do the work of like getting meat out of the lobster. It's just prepared for you in a little holder.
That sounds amazing.
It's delightful.
McDonald's had them on their menu for a very short time. And I wasn't sure about it because I was like, you're gonna get fast food lobster rolls, but it's also McDonald's, which has to have like a certain quality of food, otherwise they're screwed. So by the time I came to that realization, they were gone and they never came back. They keep bringing back the stupid McRib, but not the lobster roll.
It's probably crayfish or something. They're probably cutting corners somewhere. They used to put laxative in their breakfast sausage meat.
What?
Yeah. And do you know why the chips are so salty? Is so that you drink the drinks. And the chairs in McDonald's are ergonomically designed so that they're uncomfortable after about 20 minutes. So you'll get up and go and leave.
They're running a business. They've actually replaced some chairs in McDonald's. I think it's in China or Japan with stationary bikes. So you can like pedal while you eat.
It's really sending a mixed message.
Yeah, it really is.
There's a huge gym not far from me, and in the parking lot of the gym is a Burger King. And it's like, I wonder how many decisions were made there. Like,
yeah. I used to work in McDonald's right outside the football stadium in Portsmouth, and my match days were just rammed. But they had all the other stuff around, like the B&Q and all that, and the KFC. But then there's also a gym and an activity center for kids, a football stadium full of athletes.
One-stop shop. One-stop shop.
Okay, so this is a bit esoteric, but what is the most useless invention in all of Star Trek?
I can't think of anything useless.
I don't think the communicators were useless, but I think having to bang here is dumb. Like, couldn't they have put it on the wrist? Like, wouldn't there have been a better option than like And especially like, so you're fighting and you need to talk to someone. Couldn't it be voice activated? Like, why are we still having to push a button?
That's fair.
That is a good point, because
That's an excellent point.
presumably the rest of it was voice activated, because how would it know who to speak to? It was going to tell everyone in the Federation. That's a very good point
too. And then as I'm watching the show, I'm like, the Enterprise was kind of like Alexa, always listening, because just out of the blue, they would be like, where is this person? Like, I get when they would have to say computer to like wake the computer up. But there were times where they would just start talking and the computer would respond. So it was always listening.
Yeah.
Not to spoil Discovery, but this most recent season, the computer plays a very big role and
Cool.
starts to, Pinocchio a little, want to be a real boy.
Oh, brilliant!
Yes.
See, that's how the end of days comes.
Yeah.
Skynet.
I haven't seen the latest season. I got halfway through, I think, season 3, and I was really enjoying it. I just never got around to finishing it. And they had a cat. I love cats. And I know you're allergic. But
It's a good cat.
It was a brilliant cat. Oh,
you could replicate a cat that wouldn't trigger your allergies if you wanted a cat. You can't replicate live things?
Nah. That's where the Klingons get annoyed, because they eat these bloodworms called gash. And if we've got a question coming up, and they have to replicate them dead. And then
I saw that episode. Well, I saw an episode recently where Riker was preparing to go to the Klingon ship.
Yeah.
It was like, because it was 1.5 times, I may have missed parts of the plot line, but it felt like an exchange student program. That
it was. Yeah. That's all it was. Okay, so what is the scariest life form in all of Star Trek? That's a big, wide range.
One of my favorite episodes I saw recently, and I forget what the life form was called, but it looked. Have you seen that like TikTok filter that looks like your eyes, nose, and mouth in a sky? Like it was that, and it was like this life form that was trying to figure out humans. So then he's like, "Oh, you have a finite lifespan," and then just like killed a guy, and then they were to figure it out. And then he's like, "Oh, I need to do more experiments on this. It'll only take about 50% of your crew and like everybody on board." So instead, they decided to like self-destruct. They were like, just instead of letting this life form in the sky kill 50% of us, let's just wrap it all up and self-destruct. But that one, because they didn't see it coming, like they didn't see him until he presented himself or itself. They didn't know it was there. They just knew something was up until it was like, here I am. So it could just have completely gone anonymously without them ever knowing that it was there. That's terrifying. It's like ghosts.
That's creepy. See, I feel like as a kid, the one that scared me, besides like bug in the ear is number one. Sorry, like you're messing with my brain. Screw you.
Yeah.
But as a kid from the original series, I don't know if you remember, but there was that monster that sucked the salt out of your body with suction glands, and it would go like on your face. That one gave me nightmares for sure.
Yeah.
I was always freaked out.
That was a creepy one. Actually, that is a good answer. Because didn't it kill one of the? I can't remember who it killed. But yeah, it was a salt vampire. I think they called it. Yeah, that was a creepy one.
They didn't know for a while what it was doing, and they just were seeing people with like the red circles on the faces. And
Yeah. It kind of reminded me, for some bizarre reason, of Doctor Who and the Sea Monsters in the original.
Yeah.
I think the dumbest life form, one of them was the Shellyak. You showed me a picture of it the other day. I think it killed Tasha Yar. And it was just like, it looked like a garbage bag with oil on it.
Yes. Yeah, that one was terrible.
Yeah.
And then when they did when they showed it like oozing out, it was so clearly like I mean, I know it was the late 80s, but it was so clearly like terrible CGI, and they used it twice, and then they just had this like black pool of goo that would move angrily when it was talking.
Yeah.
It was so bad. What a terrible way for Tasha to go. Killed by that.
All right then. Here's a good one. Gach or prune juice? You have to pick.
Prune juice.
Yeah, prune juice. Go with what you know.
I've never had either.
I've never had either, but I don't know. Live gag or dead gag?
Presumably it'd be like the live version.
No, thank you. Prune juice.
wriggling around your mouth.
No.
Nope.
I have texture issues. I can't.
Have you ever asked a cast member for their autograph?
Never been that close to a cast member.
Yeah, no, but I spent most of my teen years dreaming of meeting Wesley Crusher. I mean, I have the hots for him pretty bad, but no, sadly, I've never met them.
I have a question because I know how you feel about this particular cast member. I'm curious. How do you feel about Riker?
That's
I mean, there's not a lot of nuance to him, I think. I think he kind of picked up a little of that almost Kirk swagger, or maybe because Picard was played so straight that they needed someone to come in and be that little more like, not womanizing wild card, but a little, woman chasing wild card, let's say.
He would be an HR issue in today's standards.
Yeah, for sure. But again, I felt like they were just trying to like bring that, like, who's going to sleep with the green aliens? It's not going to be Picard, so it better be Riker.
yeah.
It's true.
What was I read a YouTube comment the other day. It really made me laugh. Yeah, I was watching a hate video about Riker, and somebody in the comments put, Riker was such an awful character that even his transporter claimed Thomas Riker hated Will Riker. Just couldn't stand him. So, which Star Trek Afterlife most appeals to you guys?
I just want to go to the holodeck in the sky.
Yeah.
That's the
Because the only one you really know about is Stovercore. I mean, the Borg Afterlife is probably the worst because you just get dismantled and reabsorbed into the collective, and your consciousness is disassembled. So that'd be the worst.
Would they consider that to be the worst, or would they consider that just kind of being part of the?
Oh yeah. Oh well, there's no they in that sense, is there? It's just the one mass. So, I guess in that sense, though, it's kind of like
you would return to the mass, like you would.
Yeah.
That would almost be like Borg heaven, kinda.
Yeah.
They're my favorite. I get so excited about any Borg episode or saucer separation. Always like tickled me.
Yes.
I was like, I love both.
Yeah.
But yeah, whenever they had the Borg and the episode with Hugh, when he
Borg. Yeah.
I am Hugh, and it still kills me.
Yeah.
Poor Hugh.
But speaking of afterlife, the one thing that I feel like, and I feel like this isn't just happening with Star Trek lately, obviously it's a big thing in Marvel, but I feel like this whole concept of multiple timelines, multiple dimensions, like you can never trust in any show anymore that anyone has actually died.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it happens a lot in Discovery. I mean, that's the huge plot point in Discovery from one season to the next.
Yeah.
And I really struggle with, and even the new Star Trek movies, the reimagined ones with Chris Pine, what they did with the alternate timeline. And I guess in a world where you're time traveling so much back and forth, this stuff was bound to happen. But as a consumer, you're never sure what to get attached to and what death to actually mourn because that person comes back a day later because, we just were in like an alternate timeline and I'm here, I'm good.
Yeah. I do find it very frustrating because I want to connect with the characters and I want to experience the loss and actually go through that and have that reaction. But I think you're completely right. I kind of see, I mainly saw it happening with Marvel, and I hadn't really thought that it was happening with other things. But now that I'm thinking about it, because of what you said, I think it's more pervasive than I'd realized.
Yeah.
It's almost like they kill off a character. The fans say, no, we like that character. So the easiest way to bring them back, once upon a time, it used to be like, it was just a dream. And now it's, you would just went to Narnia for a little bit. And now you're back.
And we got taught at school that you should never do that. It's never just a dream.
Wasn't that how they found out who shot JR? Was all just a dream?
Yes. Oh,
It's
man.
always just a dream.
So, what would your favorite holodeck program be? I would love to have a holodeck.
Oh man, I really liked when Picard would do his like Sherlock Holmes
Yeah.
and Data did the Sherlock Holmes stuff. That one I enjoyed.
And really, like any time traveling one where they're, going back and trying to figure out human times was fun.
Yeah.
But I also I thought they did a good job of anyone where they're just going to any kind of paradise, like any kind of
Yeah.
other planet that just had all this wildlife growing. Visually, I just like watching that. I feel like that's where I want to go because then you can travel without traveling.
Yeah, totally. I quite liked Janeway when she'd go visit Da Vinci's workshop and just hang out with Da Vinci. I thought that was quite cool.
Wasn't there an episode of Next Gen where Geordi and another engineer or scientist were using the holodeck to figure out what was happening on the ship? And like he was in the holodeck. She was a holodeck program, but he kind of like started to get feelings for her, and then it was like, oh, sorry.
Oh, Barclay. But I don't know if I'm getting my episodes confused, but Reginald Barclay, he had who used to be in the A-Team. He got a bit obsessed with having relationships with women who were holograms because he found it easier to interact with them than human women.
Different episode, but I remember that one. And they used to call him Broccoli, didn't they?
Really? I don't remember.
I thought somebody called him Broccoli.
Bless him. Hey, oh yeah, I like this one. Who's your favorite antagonist?
It has to be Q.
Yeah, he's brilliant.
Yeah, he's amazing.
No one comes close.
I love that Cisco punched him once. It's like, Picard never hit me.
And I love that they brought him back for Picard, and like it's this full circle moment, and he looks fantastic. He looks better than he did.
He's another one who hasn't aged.
Man.
I don't mind spoilers from Picard because I haven't seen season 2 yet, so don't worry about spoiling it for me because I'm not like that with Star Trek. So is Q done well in Picard? Like, is he still got the Q essence?
Oh yeah, he's still cute.
Yeah.
This whole second season is without I would say the whole series is like it's about Picard and Q.
Oh, cool.
Like that's my take on it anyway, is that like he came in the first episode, he's kind of left them on this adventure, this time traveling adventure. But yeah, it's all Q all the time.
Yeah. I've only seen the first 2 episodes, but I would concur.
Oh, cool.
Sorry if I ruined it for you.
No, the first 2 episodes of the second season. So I can kind of yeah. I've seen the whole first season.
I didn't understand the hate that people had for the first season. I mean, there was only one episode that I got bored in, and that was when they got to the android planet. I quite liked it, but I really enjoyed the rest of the season. I didn't understand why so many people hated it.
What was the feedback that you were hearing?
I think it's just more of the same bullshit, isn't it? Like, it's woke, or strong female leads are awful. Mary Sue's and all that stuff. The Borg. They've done the Borg again.
Yeah, because the Borg
You know what I mean?
awesome.
Yeah.
I like it, but I don't love it. And my brother's watching it, and he's obsessed with it. He's just finished season 2. He absolutely loves it. And I love Picard. Like I don't know if I could ever answer like the Picard or Kirk question because I just love them both for such different reasons. But there were just pockets that felt a little forced nostalgia-y.
Okay, yeah. That's
I
fair.
wish, like when the cast came back, like when they were all visiting and they were all together on that like woodsy wherever they were. I don't know. It just felt like they were inserting characters for the sake of seeing familiar faces, and that they necessarily weren't driving any of the storyline. I really like the actual, almost Terminator-like storyline of robots rising up, and I want them to dive more into that. I think.
Yeah,
I agree, and it really stung me when they called Picard JP or JL.
Yeah. Show some respect.
It annoyed me so much. It's not JL. I mean, you don't have to call him Jean-Luc, but not JL.
Yeah.
Question for both of you. If you could design your own holodeck program, what would it look like?
I just went to a really sad place. Because and not, I'm not going to be sad, but all like my favorite things that I would like to do. Like my first thought was like, I would love to go back and rerun one of my marathons. Like I would love to do that. But, I don't know that the holodeck could give me working parts. So
I think though that the medical advancements at the time could.
Oh, that's true. That's true.
Yeah.
So there you go. I'd go back and I'd rerun one of my marathons.
Yeah.
Probably not.
While you're exploring the stars at the same time.
Yes. Yeah.
What I want is the medical technology where they gave Worf the new spine. I want one of them. Can we have that now?
I just watched the episode where like there was a virus that was like taking out the entire crew, everyone, and like I think there was an away team and they were trying to bring people back and they're like, you can't come back because we got cooties all over the place. But it was just like everything else they can do with this little wand, they can fix it. But then they were like, we're stumped on this virus. We don't know what's happening. And it took like the entire episode before they were like, oh, that's what it is.
That makes me feel a little bit better about today.
Yeah.
With all our technology, we're like, ooh, viruses.
Yeah.
They'll get us.
And I find it incredible that like just a small life form can just bring everything to a halt. Just a little mutation, and that's it. The world stops.
It's true.
Screw the Borg.
I know, they just give us cooties.
Okay, so who is your least favorite antagonist?
I never cared for the Ferengi.
Yeah, I can see that. They're little Jar Jar Binks.
A little. And the black goo monster, the garbage bag full of goo, was just ridiculous.
Yeah, I don't know who my least favorite would be. There's quite a few to choose from, isn't there, really? Like there was that one episode where they had those in the original series and they looked like fried eggs stuck to things. And then they would fall off stuff and then attack your nerves or something. And you'd basically be running around with a fried egg on your head, like screaming in pain.
Yeah.
They had to do what they could with what they had. It was a different time.
Oh, hi there. Are you looking for a fun pair of glasses because you don't have your own personality? What? Well, hi there. Are you looking for some fun glasses to showcase your unique style and personality? That was better? That was a good one? Okay. Then you should go to zlul.com. Whether it's your personality or someone else's you want to show off, you'll find glasses at Zlul for incredibly low prices. And you can use my promo code to get even more of a save. GVizzle, save 8.
What are our thoughts on the casting choices made in the new, like the Chris Pine, Carl Urban movies? Any thoughts on the cast?
I absolutely love Chris Pine as Kirk. I think he's amazing. I think he captures the swagger. I think he's easy on the eyes. I enjoy looking at his face. I really liked the casting, the rest of it. I didn't have any issues. I'm not the type of person to go to the movies more than once, but when those movies came out, I went to movies more than once to see those over and over.
Really?
I enjoyed it.
I thought Zachary Quinto as Spock was absolutely uncanny. He was perfect.
Yeah, the Spock hair is not conducive to running though. Like it was distracting me with seeing him run and like his little bangs go to the wind. I just couldn't. No, I don't know how I feel about casting Winona Ryder as his mother, since they're practically the same age. Like it always bothers me when they cast women who are the same age as their children in TV shows. Like it's okay to pick an older woman.
Yeah.
Who could have actually had a 25, 30-year-old son. Like that would have been fine.
I noticed that in Fringe. I was watching an episode last night, and there was a character who just his wife didn't look like she'd be his wife, not just in terms of the disparity in looks, but disparity in attitude, demeanor, background, everything. Like, it just didn't fit. And I just think, why do they do that in TV shows so often? That they just don't look like a couple. And it's the same.
Writing.
Yeah.
I was not only heartbroken to learn about Anton Yelkin's untimely passing, because I think he was so young and such a fantastic actor, but his Chekhov was like the highlight for me of the series. Like, just loved him. And it would be like, I don't know if they're going to make any more movies, but it would be interesting to see what would they do with that. Like, would they try to replace him with another actor, or would they just kind of like say goodbye to Chekhov in a different type of way? Because he just did it so flawlessly.
No, they did it, didn't they?
Didn't they?
Yeah,
Maybe
in the latest film, Star Trek Beyond, they did like a little scene they filmed later. I think, I'm speculating, but there was a bit where Kirk and McCoy are sharing a drink, and then they fill up another glass, basically for the friends lost, and they chink the glass, and it's just like a goodbye to Anton Yelchin.
Okay, then I missed that part. But yeah, it was
really sad.
That was tragic.
I actually got a bit teary in that scene when I saw it. I was just...
He was such a great actor.
Sad. Thanks for that.
Sad moment. Wow. Sorry, I ruined it.
Did you see the film where he played a like a local sort of 2-bit punk band lead singer? And I can't remember what the film was called. But then they do a gig, and they turn out the gig is at some kind of far-right neo-Nazi compound at like their bar. And Patrick Stewart plays the head of the neo-Nazis, and he's really horrible.
Wow. I can't even imagine that.
No. It threw me for a loop. I was really surprised.
I know, you really get like, there's some characters that I just get really stuck on, and when I see them outside of that, it's almost like it's disappointing. Like, if I were to ever see Christopher Walken playing like a neurosurgeon, I'd be like, no, Christopher, you gotta be kooky. Like, there's just some people, and like, and now Patrick Stewart for me is Picard and Xavier.
Yep.
And that's all he can ever be for me, which is unfortunate because he's done so much other shit in his career, but no, that's it. That's him.
He wants to be a leader and a mentor and someone well respected.
Yeah.
Like, I saw him, he did a bit, I forget what the Ricky Gervais show was. I think like
Extras, I think.
Yes.
Extras.
Yeah. And he did a bit in it where he was just so not what you would expect his personality to be, Patrick Stewart. And it was hilarious, but it was like, oh, what if that's what he's like? What if that's what he's really like? He's a bit of a douche, actually. You never know.
There is...
Go. I
Go.
was going to say, I follow him on Instagram, and I know he's big into pit bull rescue. So, like, he had like a year or two during the pandemic where it was just all pictures of him and like this pit bull that he rescued. And I just want to like hug him and play with dogs with him. And
I know.
That's my
holodeck program. That's my holodeck program right there.
Yeah.
There we go.
Me, Picard, and a bunch of pit bulls.
I liked it when there's all this speculation about him being gay or something, because he divorced his wife, and then he started hanging out with Ian McKellen, and they had like that big bromance on Instagram like a few years back, and then everyone's like, oh my god, because obviously Ian McKellen's gay, and they were like, oh my god, maybe they're gay together, and it's like, maybe they're just friends, they just enjoy each other's company.
What's wrong with people, honestly?
And so what if he was? Like, it's so irrelevant.
What a beautiful couple they would make.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But wouldn't that just be, though, like Magneto and Professor X finally reconciling their differences?
It's like, it would be like every romantic comedy. I love you, I hate you, kiss me. Like, it's all, like, that's what it would be doing.
I would watch that movie.
Yeah, I'd watch the shit out of that. There's some kooky misunderstanding halfway through. Like, Magneto sees Xavier at lunch with like Sue, and instead of thinking like, oh, they're hashing out their differences, they must be having an affair, instead of asking him about it, I'm just gonna go snoop into his phone and see what happens. 30 seconds later.
Yeah, you should never take relationship advice from rom-coms.
True.
But in terms of like the casting in the JJ verse films, like, because I quite liked Khan. I really liked Benedict Cumberbatch's version of him. I thought it was, apart from his angry shower scene, that was a bit awkward.
I liked him too.
I was just gonna say, the one thing I hated that I still can't get over is the reimagining of the Kirk and Spock at the end of Star Trek II, how they flipped it in the movie, you know, when they're on either side of the glass. And then in the opposite version, they do it the opposite way. And I felt like, why would you take something so beautiful, like one of the greatest moments of the first few Star Trek movies, and then just like use it for your own clout?
Yeah.
I don't know.
So I guess we've already answered the whole Kirk or Picard debate. You're not sure which of the two you would go for. It's not an answerable question for you.
I mean, it depends on the context, like who I would want to hang out with versus who I would actually want to go into battle with. They both serve such different. I think if I ultimately, like, gun to my head, I had to pick, it would be Picard for sure. There's a class and I feel like I would learn more from him, whereas Kirk might get me out of a jam just because he's so quick on his feet, whereas Picard was in it for like the long game. He had a strategy. I would trust him with 20 years of my life, whereas I might trust Kirk with like a mission.
Yeah, that's
totally fair. Yeah.
This is why I like Cisco so much, is because I feel like he kind of balances those two quite well. Because I mean, he lives on the frontier and he really has to get into the nitty gritty of issues that the other captains didn't. Like, because they would just fly by night, you know, they'd drop in a planet, solve a problem, don't have to deal with the consequences and go. And then, you know, but like Cisco really has to get in there and think about the long game, but also has to think quick on his feet because God, you cat's a bastard. So, you know, yeah. So my answer to Kirk or Picard would be Cisco.
Fair enough.
So out of all the devices in Star Trek, which one would you most want in real life?
The holodeck count, or does it have to be like a handheld device type thing?
Anything that you want.
For sure, holodeck. No, I don't know. I don't know if I'm responsible enough to own a holodeck. Like, I don't think I'd ever come out of it. So it would have to be something, maybe the replicator or the little Dr. Wand thing.
The sonic
I
screwdriver.
could have had this broken toe sorted 3 minutes after it was broken if I had that. But yeah, I'm not responsible enough for a holodeck. Probably not responsible enough for a replicator either.
I don't know if I'd need the Dr. Wand thing. They also have the doctor stick it in your neck thing, and it always fixed whatever was wrong with you too. So
yeah, that's true. It's like Batman's utility belt.
Yeah, hypo spray.
I mean, a transporter would be wicked cool.
There could be issues with that. There's a book I read by China Miéville, and there's a character in it who's a really big fan of Star Trek because he has this weird esoteric power where he can teleport himself. And that's why he loves Star Trek so much. It's a special interest. However, because every time he dematerializes and rematerializes, he's basically killing himself and then recreating himself. He's surrounded by all these past souls of himself that are basically fractions of his soul that only he can see, and he's tormented by them for his whole life. And
what's that called?
The book is called Kraken.
Wow.
Yeah, he's a very small character in the book. He's only in it for a few chapters. But China Miéville.
That's an interesting thought. I mean, it's kind of like the movie The Fly with Jeff Goldblum, where like he was trying to move himself, but if you are kind of dematerializing, and like, what if one tiny atom is just put back in the wrong place, and then you're screwed?
Yeah, I've never wanted to transport. It terrifies me. It terrified me before The Haunting of Lost Souls, and now that's all I'm going to think about. So I'm out.
Yeah, I'll have to rethink that one too.
Well, you're like Captain Archer in Enterprise because he refused to ever get transported because obviously in Enterprise they've only just developed it for cargo, And I think it's in one of the films they mention it, where somebody transported his dog or something. He refused to ever let his dog get transported, and he'd only ever fly by shuttle. But yeah, I'm with him on that one.
I wouldn't try. Oh no, I couldn't do that to my dogs either.
Yeah.
We'd have to go together and then be like the fly, the weird human dog morph.
Come on with big floppy ears
and a tail,
funny eyebrows.
Have you seen the show Wilfred? It's
No.
I don't know if it's still on. It's I always forget his name. Frodo.
It's not Topher Grace. It's someone who looks kind of like him. Oh, it's you're right.
Starts with an E.
Elijah.
Yes.
Elijah Wood.
So Elijah Wood is this guy who's got a dog, or he watches his neighbor's dog, and like his neighbor sees the dog as just a dog, but he sees it as like a man in a dog suit that talks to him, and they get up to like lots of hijinks. And that's what I imagine if I was to go through. It's a fantastic show. Like, it's definitely worth a watch. But that's what I imagine. Like, if Gozer and I went through a transporter, he'd come out with my face. I would have a snoot.
I would watch that show too.
Yeah.
If you can find it, it's definitely worth a watch. It's a good show.
Look it up.
All right. So we mentioned time travel earlier. So you're only allowed to watch one time travel episode for the rest of your life. Which one would you pick?
I mentioned it in my video, but I will always have a soft spot for Star Trek 4, just because that came out when I was probably like 11. And, you know, back in the day when you were home from school and there's nothing on TV, so you'd look at your VCR tapes and you'd pick out, and I had like 3 that were in rotation. And that was one, every single time I was sick, I would watch that. And you're going back to like a time right before I was a teenager. It's a familiar time. It's my favorite show. I will always Star Trek 4.
Because I'm not a fan of that one. But me and my partner often have discussions about this because she wants to watch it. So I think you get on quite well with her. She loves the
I know
whales.
it's not for everybody.
Yeah.
It's pretty cheesy. It really has very little to do with Star Trek, but I just absolutely loved it.
There are aspects to it I really like when Chekhov is trying to get on the aircraft carrier, silly moments like that. The fact it's all based on the Klingon bird of prey and not the Enterprise. I think all of that stuff's quite cool. But yeah, just the silliness with the whales and stuff.
George and Gracie.
Sorry?
George and Gracie, that was the name of the whales.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, George and Gracie.
I would watch there's the Next Gen one where I think the ship keeps exploding and they have to keep like or I don't even know if it's a time travel one, but they have to keep figuring out what they have to change or what they have to do to prevent the ship from exploding because it just keeps like looping. I don't know if they travel through time or it's just like they're stuck in this weird time loop where they have to
still
prevent
time
the
travel
ship.
though.
Pardon?
It's still time travel.
I guess.
Yeah.
But yeah, I like that one.
I really like.
Groundhog Day.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I really like Deep Space Nine episode. You may or may not have figured out I'm a fan of Deep Space Nine. But Trials and Tribulations was one of my favorite ones. And then Cisco and everybody go back to the Trouble with Tribbles episode from the original series. And they can't figure out why Worf has a big crusty head and all the other Klingons are smooth foreheads. And they're like, hey, Worf, what's this about? They don't look like you. And he's like, oh, we don't talk about that.
That's funny.
Like Worf.
Yeah. And then I think, and I think they get into a big fight in the cafeteria and it's all very sort of gung-ho original series style. That's brilliant. So what's your favorite Enterprise from all, like, any aspect of the Trek franchise, including the games or books or whatever?
I don't know the schematics well enough to answer that question.
So we gonna say, Beth?
Like actual ship or crew?
Oh no, the ship.
I actually might go Next Generation just because, and I think it still holds up mostly in going back and watching it. I feel like it was so far and above any technology that we had at that time or could imagine at that time, it felt so new, even compared to other sci-fi stuff that was coming out. I was so impressed with that Enterprise, and it always will make me think like futuristic thoughts, because it was so far advanced over like what I imagined the future could be.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah.
Yeah. I remember my husband and I, we bought all the original movies and we started watching them. And the first movie, when they like show you the Enterprise for the first time, it was like that scene took like 8 minutes. Like it took forever. They were revealing it so slowly that they made it so grandiose. But like, yeah, Beth's right. Like the Enterprise in the next gen just has that extra feel of what like you would expect from a futuristic spaceship, but still not, because they just added so much to it and did so much with it, and the design of it is so like sleek that it was a sexy ship.
Yeah.
I think I'm going to go for the Enterprise E from First Contact. I just thought it was a really nice upgrade from the Next Generation one, the D, and I just like it kind of had more of a warship flagship feel to it.
First Contact is my favorite Star Trek movie.
Yeah, so yeah. Describe the Federation in 5 words. Go.
Unifying, but not always right.
Oh, so good.
Brilliant. That is spot on. That's really good.
Yeah, that's the best answer ever. I'm not even going to try.
Well, thank you for having me, guys. This was lovely.
Yeah.
Anytime. All right. Well, enjoy the rest of your day.
Okay,
Thank you, you too.
Yeah,
Thanks.
catch you later. Enjoy the rest of your day. I'm going to enjoy my
Thanks.
afternoon.
Yes, enjoy the rest of it.